Fuzzy Talks. How is everyone doing? I know it's the May half term holidays right now, and I'll be honest with you, I have been very busy. I haven't had a rest at all, partly because of Eid being around the corner and just doing mumly stuff. I was actually supposed to go to London and spend Eid with my mum, but unfortunately, plans changed. She had a fall and has been in hospital, and aren't quite sure when she's going to be discharged. Luckily, she hasn't broken anything, which is great news. But she can't really move much right now. Because of that, I don't think it's the right time for me to visit. I don't want to be a burden on anyone. I'm just going to weigh things out and see how she does. Living so far away from London makes it tricky because whenever I visit, I have to stay overnight. I must be getting too old for this. Speaking of age, it really is difficult. I remember when I was in my early 20s or 30s, after a full day of work, I could easily drive 2 to 3 hours straight to London and it wouldn't affect me at all. Now that I'm in my late 40s, my body catches up with me. I need a whole day just to recover from work. And if I travel on the motorway, that's it. I'm completely exhausted and desperate for a nap. That's life for you. So I think it's best for me to just spend Eid with my family here and hope that my mum recovers quickly. The other day, I was watching an interview on YouTube with Kelly Brook. She was a major glamour model and actress back in the 90s, if you guys know. In the interview, she was talking about how tough women had it in the 90s regarding their appearances. But then the media and the magazines were brutal. The ideal look was to be incredibly thin, keeping Kelly Brook wasn't the thinnest, but she had a beautiful curvaceous figure, she still has. She mentioned how much young girls just had to deal with it, with that toxic media culture back then. Nowadays, things have changed dramatically for the better. The media isn't as harsh about women's bodies, and girls are more sensitive to it. Hearing that triggered a thought in my mind about how tough the 90s were for different reasons, particularly within the South Asian community. Back then, dealing with toxic in laws was incredibly difficult, especially if you lived in the joint household. As a South Asian girl growing up in that era, you were constantly caught between two completely different worlds. On one hand, you were living a Western life outside, going to work, seeing the freedom other people had, and realizing that there was a whole different world out there. But the minute you stepped inside the house, you were expected to completely mold yourself into a strict traditional box. You had to fit the perfect, quiet daughter in law image, cook traditional food, and follow rules without questioning them. Not that it was anything wrong with that. It's just it was incredibly difficult to constantly switch between those two identities, knowing in your heart that you wanted and expected something more for yourself. And you know what made it even harder was that we were fed on our TV screens. In the 90s, the Bollywood movies were absolutely huge, and they constantly sold us this beautiful fairy tale image of how perfect and romantic married life was going to be. But if you look closer at almost every single one of those films, I wouldn't say every single one of those, but majority of the ones that had a mother-in-law, it would always be a toxic mother-in-law figure right at the center of the drama. It was art imitating life, really. It perfectly reflected the reality of what it was like living in a joint household back then, where the mother-in-law held all the power in the house, absolute power. If she wanted to, she could completely make your marriage life hell, and there was very little you or your husband could do about it. Leaving your in laws to get your own place was a massive taboo. Instead, you were expected to live together in one household with brother in laws and sister in laws, often all cramped into individual rooms. Thankfully, things have changed so much since then. Nowadays, girls have it so much easier, and honestly, good for them. Young women today can put their foot down, demand their own space and privacy, and it isn't looked down upon at all. As a 90s girl myself, I can really relate. While there were good times back then, it was an era where you were expected to just listen, even if your mother in law was a total tyrant. If you spoke up, it was unheard of. I have my own personal experiences with this, and while today isn't the time to dive into them, I'd honestly describe some of it as trauma. But we heal. As I've grown older, I've learned how to process those experiences and understand that we were all product of that era. It doesn't define who I am today. I am as strong as ever. But I just love seeing that modern girls have boundaries and can stand up for themselves because back then it felt like a free for all for people to criticize everything you did. Anyway, moving on. I heard some news about new weight loss pills hopefully coming to the UK soon, similar to what they have in America. We're looking at the medications like Manjaro and other weight loss injections. Honestly, I'm really excited about the prospect of these becoming more accessible in England because for some people, these are life saving. If people can lose weight and get healthier in a safe way, it's one of the best things that could happen, not just for the individual, but for the NHS as well. But have you seen how expensive Manjaro has become lately? It's crazy. Apparently, these new pills are going to be much cheaper, which is a relief because it feels like they are trying to squeeze every little penny from us lately. Everything we need in our life just keep going up in price. At this rate, they'll be charging us an oxygen tax just to breathe. We just don't get a break. Road tax, council tax, tax everywhere. And speaking of council tax, oh my God, my bins haven't been collected in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. They missed the collection last week. And even though the recycling team came today on the bank holiday, Monday, the main bin men didn't show up. I have a big family, so you can imagine the massive backlog of rubbish I'm dealing with right now. But yep, that is my official rant for the day. On a brighter note, I hope everyone is enjoying this beautiful weather. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. I know it can get a bit humid and uncomfortable at night, but we spent months moaning about the cold. So let's just enjoy the sunshine without complaining. If you're doing any gardening, this weather is going to be fantastic for your plants. Let's just hope we get a nice, gentle breeze over the next few days. There is nothing worse than when it's boiling hot and the air is completely still, not a single leaf moving on the trees. That's when you know you're in for a sticky night, even with the windows wide open. So, thank you so much for listening to me today. Enjoy that beautiful weather. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.